one, go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the Divine Brothers meeting once more. And it's a good week, everybody, because you silly Westerners, it's the beginning of Chinese New Year. Yeah. Anybody know what year it is? Huh?
Snake.
Snake. The snake is finally happening. And that means all of us must shed our previous skin and be born renewed into a new creature. Yeah. Or it means we all got to get some dick this year. That's how the gay world is taking it. So I'm looking forward to it, Chase. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good one.
Wait, are you looking forward to getting dick yourself, or are you looking forward to Chase getting
Well, you know
some
what? I think it
snake?
might be good for you, Chase. Have you ever considered a strap on? Yeah. Have you ever considered that? I think that honestly, there is something about the Pulp Fiction experience, maybe being tied up and having something plunged deep inside of you as an experiment in submission. Would you consider that? I think we have some family members who might consider something like that. Yeah.
Well, not in blood relatives, but yeah, something like that.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah.
That would be stunning and brave.
Stunning and brave. Yes, I think that's the good word for it. Yeah.
He said something. He said, "Chase, are you going to get some snake?" And nobody's ever asked me that before in my life, but I knew exactly what you meant. I,
Exactly.
I think you guys as gay men should make that like that's you should make that the catch-all for society. Hey man, you gonna get some snake tonight? Like that. I like that. Like you gonna get some dick, some you know.
It sounds like something a straight gay guy would say, you know. You know
What?
what I mean? It's not gay enough that word, but
Oh, a
yeah.
straight guy says it to a gay guy. That's what it
Yeah, yeah.
is.
You gonna get
Yeah.
some steak tonight?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
man. You know it. I fucking love it. Yeah. Yeah. Fun. Yeah.
Wow. We just started a new catchphrase. Damn, man, we are something
Give me some
special.
snake tonight, baby. Get some
Well,
snake. You know. And I remember in West Texas, some guys used to call their dick their rattler. A rattler.
yeah.
A
This
rattler.
it's masculine. It's
A
super
rattler.
masculine. Yeah, to
Yeah.
go get some snake, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta shake the rattler.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Damn. Okay. Well, happy Chinese New Year to all of you. Yeah, I hope it's a blessed year. Xingden Kuaila, as we say in China, which means get rich quick. They don't say good luck in China. They just say get rich. We hope you get money. That's all that they care about. So I hope all of you get money. That's the real blessing of the year.
Thank you. That's all I want too. That'd be great. Yeah.
Mhm. Fucking money, man. I hate how it's haunted me around every corner. It's always there, fucking with my shit. Always needing more to do the things you want.
Do you guys feel like I feel like at this point in my life, this is the most poor people that I've seen on my like that I interact with. People talk about money in a negative way now. A lot of people that never talked about money in a negative way before. Is this y'all's observation as well? Or is this you're in China? Maybe Austin can correlate. Like a lot of people suffering now.
It's got to be bad in Alabama, right, Austin?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Everyone talks about inflation and shrinkflation. Food costs 3 times more than it did a year ago. Things are pretty bad where I'm at.
Let me tell you something, everybody. I know this is my weekly thing. Communism is fan-fucking-tastic. All right. We right here. You know how much my grocery bill? I bought a whole shitload of groceries last night, man. Chicken, broccoli, bought all kinds of leafy green vegetables, some pork in there. Cost me this multiple bags of groceries, the equivalent of 10 American dollars. 10 American dollars. Get to
That
feed myself for a week on 10 American dollars. Come on.
that won't even buy you a thing of mayonnaise in Hawaii. Mayonnaise is $11. I put it back on the shelf. I went up to that. I was like, is this right? $11 for this. I got mustard. I hate mustard.
Oh man, that is bad if Chase is getting mustard, man.
That's
Hey,
how bad it is. I don't
wait
like
a second.
mustard, and that's what I'm eating on my sandwiches.
So, Chase, I have a question.
It's fucking revolution time, man.
You're 40 years old, right? So you are still eating sandwiches. Very
No,
irregular.
no, no, no. I do not eat it regularly, but occasionally. It's just easy.
How
It's
many
just
times a
easy.
week?
Now,
Yeah.
one.
One sandwich a week? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I gotta be honest, man. Chase C. Austin, Chase grew up sandwiches. As a matter of fact, what was your first word, Chase?
Sandwich.
Sandwich was his first word. The first word he uttered. Great first word. Great
Yeah,
first word, by the
it's
way.
what I wanted. It was on my mind.
Sure.
Yeah, but he was always a ham, cheese, mayo, right, Chase? Something simple like that.
I love mayonnaise. If I ever made it famous, I would have been honored to do a commercial for real mayonnaise. And I also, how much I hate Miracle Whip just because of the nerve of the name. Like to put miracle in the name of your product when it's very mediocre, it really pisses me off on a deep level. So I would like to take them out one day just out of spite.
Did you ever get into sandwiches? Like, did you ever go to like sub shops with Vic and try any of these sandwiches that he was all about?
I did appreciate a shop that had a kick-ass sandwich. And if it was kick-ass, I'd always get that one, you know. And they're hard to find. Hard to find a kick-ass sandwich, man.
I've had very few moments of genuine bonding with my father, but there was a real bonding moment over sandwiches. Like he took me to the best sandwich shops in Texas. There's two, and to this day, I maintain they're the best sandwich shops in the world. Anton's in Houston and the Great Outdoors and Dallas. We would get those sandwiches. Vic would always be like, "Hey, we're getting the special. You know,
Yeah.
hey, you get
He
the
would
five
order
dollar
for you.
special."
He would ruin it.
Yeah,
He would order
yeah, he would
for you.
order for you, that sort of stuff.
Fucked up.
But
Yeah.
at these, this is the only place I remember having a sandwich at the Great Outdoors, eating the whole thing, declaring it the greatest fucking thing that has ever touched my tongue. And he says, "You want another one? Get another one. Get another one." I couldn't believe it. He had never said that before in my life. He was like, "You liked it that much. You get yourself another sandwich." We
Wow.
bonded so much over that sandwich, man. It was
And
fantastic.
that day he was a father.
Real father. That was a big moment for me. Yeah.
What a kind gesture. One of the core memories I have of Chase and Vic interacting is at the Mexican house, and one of them is making a sandwich, and someone reached for mustard, and Chase was like taking out of the mustard out of Vic's hands, and he was like, "I want that mustard." And Chase goes, "Okay, I guess you want cancer then." He goes, "What are you talking?" He like grabs Chase by the shirt. He's like, "What are you talking about? Mustard doesn't cause cancer." And it was like,
What?
Is
I
this
know
a
it
real
sounds.
conversation? Is this
Mustard causes cancer, Chase.
Now that I say it out loud, this might have been just a dream. Dream. No, this is like a very short clip of a memory I have. I don't, but I think about it like once a week, and I don't know why. Like there's much more important memories that have been pushed out of my head with my family members that I don't have anymore because I have this argument about mustard between Chase and Vic. And,
I'm
and
shocked at my answer to how mustard's gonna cause cancer. That somebody might believe that.
no, Vic didn't believe it.
That
I
was
think he
that's a
grabbed your
horrible
shirt.
lie. I
Grab
hope
you
I've
by
gotten
the
better.
shirt, Chase.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, I got
Yeah.
better at lying over the years. That's a bad one right there. That's an egregious error. So that's a great memory, man. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I hope it's
you're
true.
welcome.
Yeah.
You were there. You don't remember my memories of you. Or at least it's happened one time. Same with Eric. It's about
Yeah.
the frog thing. At least he seemed to remember and build onto it. But I question if this is just like another occasion where he was throwing frogs into the ground. If it was that specific
Nah,
occasion.
he was always throwing shit into the ground. Like, it
Yeah.
was bizarre. Like we worried that he might hurt somebody one day, but he didn't. He turned out into a nice guy. But hey, so this made me think there was actually a study done. I was in my PhD program. So the most uh, important moment in therapy compared to what the therapist thought and what the client thought. Do you think they would sync up, or do you think they would be drastically different?
Drastically different.
What is the percentage you think?
Uh, let's go crazy. Let's say 90%.
What do you think, Austin?
I could go like 25-75.
In which way?
That the therapist is wrong.
Yeah, it was something like 95% plus that the therapist was wrong, man. It's just like, oh, that day, that time, and this memory, and they're like, yeah, that didn't matter at all.
But that's the whole point. It's different perspectives, you know.
Yeah, yeah, but most people forget that. Like most people think like a shared significant moment is a shared significant moment when truly it's usually just coming from one person where it's special.
But you remember when you did that paper for college about throwing nitro into the pool? Do you remember this? And we had to write.
Yes, yes.
It was different. We had different perspectives of it. Like it was the same story, but you could see how you were reading it a totally different way than I was, you know.
You wrote it in a way that it was enjoyable to read. Like you made
Mm.
someone feel like they were reading a real story. I wrote it just like just matter of fact, and I was like, "Ah, you're telling a story. I'm just talking about picture in my head." Yeah, that was interesting.
How
We've
visual how visual is your mind?
fucking 100% visual.
A hundred
Unbelievably
percent visual.
super strong. I don't want to say 100%, but unbelievably powerful. It's like a movie theater.
Austin, are you the same way? How visual are you with your thoughts?
Uh, Not extremely. And
Yeah.
like, because there's meditation techniques where you're like supposed to hold images in your mind, and I find those relatively difficult. Like, only can do those for like a few seconds at a time.
Yeah, I was listening to an old interview from like the 70s with Scorsese, and he says he's terrible at reading. He's like, I'm terrible at reading. I can't write. I can't do grammar. But he says I have the most visual mind imaginable. I only see things in terms of visualization. I don't think in words. I can only think in terms of what I see. And I was thinking, like, that must be a fundamental difference between people, you know? Like,
It
some
is.
people, it must be crystal clear how they see the world, you know? And some people, maybe they can only I think in words. Like, it's always like words in my mind all the time. It's very rare that I think visually, you know?
Peterson talks about this. It's either words or images. I think the majority of people will lean toward the images, but a huge minority think in words. I don't know the
Yeah.
percentages. Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, that is a completely different way of existing. Yeah, man, mine's always, if I describe it to people, it's like a movie screen in my head. It
Mm.
is like, it's just as clear as a movie screen going to the movies.
What about what Austin said? Can you focus on a single image? Like, or maybe like a scene in your memory and it's very clear to you in your mind, it's playing.
I was going to ask him that. I was like, what's the point of that exercise to focus on an image that you just look like, or an image like a past memory? Like, what was the exercise?
So you could visualize something that has symbolic significance, like you would visualize the Buddha. And there are correlations in Christianity where you imagine the crucifixion of Christ and so forth. But it's meant to elicit, specifically those images are meant to elicit feelings of devotion and so forth. But they could be anything, and at their base, they could just be something to concentrate on. Full stop. They don't really need any significance beyond that.
I see.
Yeah.
I
I
took
remember
it.
reading about that.
I took it as if you think in words, practice imagining this image in your head. Like it's almost like a step guide to becoming more visual. Because I wouldn't do it just because I feel like that would be easy.
But like if you do think of a Buddha, and the whole point of the Buddha statue is like to meditate upon the serene face and to contemplate the idea of being at ease, you know? Like you focus on the image because you're supposed to um, draw the wisdom from it, you know? Take what's in the image and bring it to yourself, you know?
Is that what you're
Yeah,
supposed to do?
Mm.
you definitely can do that. So, especially in Tibetan Buddhism or Vajrayana, where it's heavily like visualization practices are tiered. So you would start with something very simple, and eventually you would build upon that, just like you're exercising a muscle, and you would work towards something that is incredibly complicated that contains maybe 100 or 1,000 different symbolic figures like Buddhas and lightning bolts, all manner of things. So there is like a tier system where they see it as like an active exercise that you're trying to build on to eventually reach really profoundly complicated scenarios that are. So instead of using one symbol, you're using 100 or 1,000. So this is supposed to impress the mind that much more and lead to that much more powerful altered states of consciousness.
I've actually read a lot about the. Do you guys know David Lynch? the
He-
director.
yeah, he's really into transcendental meditation.
He just died recently, like
Oh, well,
2 days ago. He died, and so yeah, Austin mentioned transcendental meditation, and Austin, I have to confess, I don't really know what that is. Like, do you know what it is?
yeah, transcendental meditation. It's a movement in which the meditation. What's kind of weird about it is two things: is that it has to be transmitted from teacher to student, and it's within a system where you have to pay for it, and it's like under the umbrella of the founder's philosophy. And they use a mantra specifically, from what my understanding. They don't use any other meditation techniques. You're given a mantra by your teacher, and that's what you use, as far as I know, for the entirety of your practice. So
Oh,
that's
so it's a little
really,
cult-like, huh?
yeah, it is a little bit cold like, but
Yeah.
not. It's never been accused of anything terrible, but it is kind of weird and secretive like that.
Dude,
So
uh,
hold on, let me finish the David Lynch thing real quick, Chase. Before I forget it. So David Lynch, if you've ever seen any of his movies, they're crazy. They're just strange, weird movies. And he had this famous TV show called Twin Peaks, yeah? And he made it over, I think, 30 years. There was a season one in the 90s, and then he did a kind of conclusion to it in the late 20 teens, you know? But it was one of these things, people were watching this show and they were drawn to it, and none of it seemed to make sense, you know, like there were all these weird scenes and strange characters. And by the time he got to the very end of the show, it all came together perfectly. Every crazy, weird, dreamlike sentence, it just came into this perfect symmetry, you know? And people asked him about this. They said, "Did you always have this plan? Did you always have this plan to make this unbelievable connected story?" And he says, "No, but through meditation, I always knew that this was the right way to go. I would have these visualizations of a scene, and I knew this was the correct way to do it. And there was something underneath it all that he just trusted would connect it eventually." And that just blew my mind because his art proved the point. This thing that took him 30 years to make, it just naturally became connected in this unbelievable way. It was really, really cool. And it made me realize that maybe, kind of like you're describing with the Tibet people, Austin, maybe visualization is a much more powerful tool than we realize, especially with the meditative elements, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like the Tibetans use it more than anybody else. And there are other things than merely visualizing an image outside of yourself, but you'll do things like you'll visualize a Buddha floating in front of you, shooting light rays into your head and your throat and your heart, for example. Like it can be very powerful and very moving. So it is like creating a movie, like a divine movie for yourself in which you're being engaged with.
Fine
And I've
movie.
heard people say that like to or Vajrayana is the Buddhism for the Western mind, because it's so like creative and active, and we're such distracted people that need all these things to engage with. And I think there's a lot of sense in that statement.
Wow, man, that's pretty cool.
the
The
trans the transcendental is where you get a mantra, right? They give you and it's shared from teacher to student. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, the transcendentals do that. I mean, that's common throughout. That's common in Mahayana, Vajrayana,
So
different forms of
w-
Hinduism.
when I was in Hanaka, this tiny little town on the backside of Big Island, I had this buddy. I met him at the track. He used to run the track in this tiny little town. And he's a little weird, man. And I was talking to him. He's like, "Yeah, man, I'm staying with my master." And I'm like, "Your master?" And like somewhere down on the in the valley, and it was like a spiritual cult, but that's what they had. They had their little secret word and phrase, and like, "Oh, I share this because his teacher walked by one day and did his little sign, and he's like, we share a mantra." I was like, "Oh, what's your mantra?" He's like, "I'll never tell you." And I was like, "You'll never tell me?" I would always try to get it out of him. I think it kind of pissed him off. I was like, "Hey, man, what's that mantra?" I'm like, "I will never tell you, Chase." I'm like, "Okay, all right." But
you know,
he took it
there's
seriously. Took it
there's
seriously.
something powerful about secrets, you know, like the idea that you are a part of something sacred and no one else can be a part of that,
Well,
you
can
know?
I say, because I was his friend for almost a year, and at the end of it, he got very upset at the master for putting the moves on one or two of the girls in the
I mean,
cult.
that's what you do.
But that always ends like that. Then why are they surprised? I'm just like, well,
Classic cult.
What do you expect them to do? Why are you upset, man? It's just
Maybe he was upset because the master didn't come on to him. You know, maybe he
maybe
wanted to get the master's
he
attention.
wants. He's probably a master himself now. God knows.
It is interesting because, like, the other day I went into a strange history of clubs. Like, in America, like things like the Kiwanis Club or like Grand Poobah Club, the stupid, like our grandfather was part of them, Toastmasters, all that stuff, social clubs that you'd be a part of. Those were huge all across America. And they had these rituals. Like there were codes and handshakes and like things that only members of the club knew, and if you like, in order to get into them, you might have to get hazed like a fraternity or something like that. And it was the fucking thing. Everyone was part of clubs all across America, all across Europe. And it died out, And the reason I was reading this is because there was an article that came out this week about loneliness in America, which is a common topic. But it actually said people are more lonely and isolated today than they were during 2020, during COVID. It's gotten worse since COVID.
COVID
And,
was the beginning of the end, man, because everybody went online. Yes.
and it makes me think that people need to have some kind, like, nobody, because one of the things they talked about in this article is that nobody's like there's no reason to go out anymore. Hey, you want to go out, man? Nah, sorry, don't feel like it. But back when there used to be these clubs, it used to be like they take attendance and shit at this club, and like, oh, you didn't show up, yeah, you kicked out of the club. You know, like there were these rites and rituals, and they kept people going. And maybe there's part of us that needs a mantra. Maybe we need a little sacredness, a little something that forces us to step out of the house, to do something a little uncomfortable. And we lost that. It's gone. The sacredness is gone. The ritual is gone. And therefore, we're all just sitting at home masturbating. And that's it.
Let me, can I ask you this? This was another fascinating thing I saw. And with two clients, high functioning, have you guys ever seen someone that describes themselves as an introvert switch to an extrovert or the other way around? Like character traits.
I've heard of that happening. I've never met somebody.
Eh,
I've seen people who claim to be introverts and they're obviously extroverts.
well, right, but you got that Myers-Briggs, you get the little letters. One of them is introvert, extrovert. Two
Total
people.
bullshit.
But two, and it was both the same direction for the pandemic. And it was like, I was a socialite. I went out quite a bit, dinner, hanging out with colleagues around the neighborhood. I got shut down in COVID. I freaked out, and then I just started to like being alone. And
Mm.
now I don't go out anymore. They're like, I'm introverted now. Like it switched them. It changed an extroverted person into an introverted. I've seen this twice, and I believe both of them. I'm like, wow, that's kind of a huge shift, man. I think that happened to a lot of people.
It's theoretically possible, but not me. No fucking way. I could never do that.
What about
That is almost impossible for me to imagine, you know.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Austin,
To
what do
be
you?
alone,
Yeah.
that's an immense privilege of an advanced society. Because not having to go out into the world and deal with people is incredible on a lot of levels. You miss out on a lot of good things, but you also miss out on a lot of really bad things too. So I totally understand. When I was in Canada and didn't go out for long periods of time, I, I don't know if my mental health exactly got worse. I feel like just dealing with terrible people can also do massive damage to your mental health if you
That's
work
true.
around people that you don't like, for
Mm.
example. I mean, being alone is very safe. I will say that. Maybe not, maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way, but it could go either way.
Yes, and I got a call from a good friend of ours, my buddy Bruce out here before I came on, and just he's with a very unstable person. And
Still,
I
damn.
talked to him for like 45 minutes and I had to stop. I was like, dude, do you hear what we're talking about? Like this is crazy shit, man. I never talk drama with this guy. We're always laughing. Now we're talking crazy shit and drama. I'm like, man, it's rubbing off on you. I was like, it's changing you, and you need to like go isolate in a cave more so than stick with that person. Like, if you're around the wrong energy, It'll alter you, man, for the worse. It's fucking awful. It's awful.
Yeah, I've heard that you become like the five people, the five most important people to you. I would could see that.
I mean, but Austin, from a sort of mystical perspective, what do you, there's the idea of being the hermit, right? Like you go off into the wilderness and you do the St. Francis thing, and you stare at a wall for 9 years, something like that. But what about the opposite? The person who, like, Nietzsche, Zarathustra, he goes out amongst the people, to preach of the Uberman, like, where do you see the value in both? Or are you somebody who says, you know what, nah, it's better to be the hermit, or nah, it's better to be amongst the people, Where do you see yourself on the spectrum?
Well, you can definitely find this debate amongst practitioners. So, and I believe with Zarathustra, it's been a while since I've read that text. Is that he came off the mountain after a long period of meditation,
Hmm.
and Nietzsche talks about his cup like him overflowing, and it says now's the time. But he reached that state of overflowing by being himself, and I think this is perhaps what we lack, that people don't aren't rich inwardly. And I think to become very rich inwardly, it does take time by yourself. I think it's you can do it around other people and socializing and being amongst the world, but it's not often told that way. Like Buddha was by himself, Zarathustra was by himself. I mean, maybe Christ went into the desert for a period of time. I mean, you find these motifs in a lot of different places.
See,
I
that's what's interesting about like the TM, like you have to go find your teacher and he gives it to you. Or like in India, you go find your guru and he gives it to you. Do you buy into that, or are you more of the opinion of, nah, you go into the wilderness like Jesus until the devil shows up and tempts you?
Uh, well, they say it's like a one in a million person that can reach enlightenment by himself. So you want to find somebody, you want to get the techniques, you want to be a student, so that he tells you how to meditate correctly, and then you can go out by yourself. Is what is normally the process.
Okay, okay. And have you done that?
I haven't. Well, we had talked about it because I was living in Canada in a very monk-like fashion. Like I would literally just not go out for weeks at a time, and it gave me ample opportunity to meditate. And I don't know if it really was like not going out that helped me, but just having so much time. Like it was remarkable. My batteries were always full because I never had to deal with any BS because I could meditate. And I think spirituality and spiritual practice is really hard to do under the normal pressures of life. And they're so much so, there's these things called jhanas, which are states of meditative absorption. A lot of people thought people were no longer capable of going into these states that were described in the early Buddhist sutras. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's how
Can you
people have
explain that a
thought of it.
little? What's that term meaning exactly?
Jhanas, I don't know. I don't know what the exact translation would be, but there's 8 stages of meditative absorption that start with they call it pity, which is a physical bliss,
I
and
remember
it
this from
goes
the book. Yes, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
right.
book you gave me, they talked about this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's how the Theravadins or Hinayanians like bracket the meditative process. There's basically 8 stages, and but there's a lot of discussion. Like, is this even attainable outside of a monastery? There's a lot of debate. I believe that I had attained at least the first jhana doing it by myself, but again, a lot of time. I don't know if I would have been able to do that if I was had a 9 to 5 job. I seriously doubt it, actually.
Hey
Mm,
man, have you guys ever been to a really cool monastery?
yes.
Where?
No.
Oh, this is a
If,
great story. I went to, so if any of you ever go to Italy, right? Like
Oh, a
Italy's great.
Christian monastery.
Oh, dude, oh man. So like Florence is amazing. Rome is super cool, but my favorite place in all of Italy is Assisi. Assisi is the home of St. Francis, and they have the Franciscan monastery. You go to this place. It is the most epic train journey. You go through Umbria, which is just endless olives, like just olive trees on hill, these big rolling plains. And then as you're coming in on the train, there's this lone mountain. It's just like flat, like Lubbock, flat olive trees, and then one singular mountain that's just It's just alone. It's just this mountain in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
And on top of it is the Franciscan monastery, established in 900 AD. It's been around this entire time. And you go there, and it's just monks running around. They're there begging, like on the street. Like I remember this one super tall monk. He just had these dead eyes staring out into the sky with his begging bowl, and he was going like, and all that. And you go into the monasteries, these ancient stone archways and stuff. And the Franciscans are hardcore poverty. Like they believe like you wear the camel hair robe, so it's uncomfortable, it's itchy all the time. You can't have any wealth of any kind. You beg for your food. It's kind of like Buddhist monks, in a lot of way. But you go in there, and I remember going into the basement, and they had Saint Francis's robe, like his old robe from 900 AD, and you look at it, and you forget people were back then. So then you look at it, and it's like this little kid's robe, and you realize, oh shit, he was 4 foot two, like this super sacred holy guy. And oh, it was so cool. It's one of the coolest places I've ever been. And they had the cells that the monks stayed in. Dude, these were little prison cells with one singular window and a little hard cot that you slept on, and you just prayed. You prayed all day and stuff like. Oh,
Did
it
did
was.
you did you feel anything though? Was
Oh
it
yeah,
was it was a holy place? Yes.
sacred place. Yeah,
Sacred
definitely
place.
sacred
Yes.
place. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Austin, I was in he's got me thinking. So I went to Bhutan. I had some students invite me. There's a famous one you have to climb up to, like in the mountains. It was cool. There was a lot of people. This daughter, my student, her dad and her and me took me to this one like 3 hours away. And it was on this little hill in a valley. It was proper fucking whatever Tibetan Buddhist. Went inside. They had the arrows, the bows and arrows. They were like ancient, like ancient, like that's what they used to drive off the Mongols. And I was like, what? And outside it was just one monk walking through the grounds, and the whole place. I had to go outside and take a piss. Was surrounded by ravens, surrounded, just cawing, caw, caw, like it was ominous. I mean, I'm not saying it was good or bad. It just there was a vibration there, and I wouldn't say I was uncomfortable, but it wasn't my vibration. I've never really felt that. It was ancient. It was ancient shit, man. I totally forgot about that too. Till you brought that up. Damn.
Yeah. They say that the divine radiance is experienced as purgatorial
Oh,
fire by those.
I don't. But
Uh,
also that point you're making earlier. If I was living in a place like that, I think I could achieve higher states of consciousness if that was my day. So I would agree with you on that point. Society today has made it almost impossible to make advances.
yeah. I've read a text. I don't remember the title of it, but he called these things like that we're immersed in a sea of patterning influences that have a profound effect on how our brain and our psyche works. And we could be totally unaware about how these things are affecting us, but they're locking us into a very definite state of being, a way of seeing the world and a way of understanding ourselves that we're so immersed in it, we have no clue that we're inside of it. And Gurdjieff talks about, he has a quote that says, the most profound and difficult prison to escape from is a prison that you do not know that you're inside of. And I
Mm.
feel like we are all in this pretty much all the time. The only time, and I think this is why psychedelics are having a resurgence, because this psychedelics genuinely break the illusion that society puts you in for everyone almost. And meditation is just a more safe and long-term solution to the issue of being trapped inside of this mental prison that society builds for you. But what psychedelics do, thankfully, is they just break it really quickly. And a lot of people that take psychedelics eventually get into meditation later because they say this non-prison consciousness, or whatever you like to call it, is much preferable to the prison mind that the society has built for us.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think the great example of the prison is like the medieval cathedral. Like this giant building that dominates the town, and you go inside of it, and you're put into this incredible sacred place, and you're made aware of the power, and they speak a language you don't understand, and you just accept it, as this thing.
Did
And
Sorry.
Go ahead, Chase. Yeah.
The talking about prisons and that you again the flashback to Bhutan. We're driving to that temple, and we're on this road, and it's just a drop off into this Himalayas, like thousands of feet down. There's a river, and by that river are this long building, like in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, what is that? What is that building down there? It's like, oh, that's the Bhutanese prison, only one. And I was like, the only one? I was like, man, I'd love to talk to some people in that prison in the middle of like a holy country, the one prison. Yeah, it's flashback because you brought up prisons.
I'm fascinated with prison. I've watched like every prison documentary that like NSNBC has created.
Locked up.
If
Locked up, yeah.
they can suck you in, even if you're not into it, if you give it a couple minutes, you won't change. You're like, actually, that's kind of fucking interesting. They're
The
animals too.
best ones were always like when it's like some American that's thrown into like a Colombian prison, or like he's like thrown into the Indonesian hardcore gang prison, and he has to survive, and he eventually goes crazy. Those shows, oh man, there's some great stories in those shows, man. I forgot about those.
There's some horrible places in this world to go to prison. Yeah, the worst one I saw was Madagascar. Every 3 hours at night, they wake up to turn. Like there's so many people in a cell, you turn together at night so that your side of the body didn't go numb, like on your arm and leg. It was,
Wow.
yeah, it was
It's
awful.
nothing like that movie with all the animals. Sounds a
No,
lot worse than that.
That's a little, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
can't watch that documentary again. Like it terrified me. It was
I
a
can't
lot.
watch that movie again, man. Stuff.
There was this one Madagascar guy in there. He's like 80. He's like, I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even have any papers. They've just left me here my whole life. And I was like, oh my God, I believe him. And I was like, oh my, he's like,
I believe it.
it's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
please,
I do
Jesus.
sometimes wonder about those people who, like they get released after, DNA comes out, 40 years later, and they're like, yeah, it was, or somebody like accused of rape, and the girl 20 years later says, yeah, I made it up. And, they always come out and they're always like, "Well, I'm just grateful. I'm just so great." I'm like, how are you not just mass murdering everyone? Like, how is the anger not absolutely overwhelming after
It
something?
it astonishes me that there has not been a bill passed. That blows my mind that that couldn't be a priority somewhere. You know, another one they should pass too is if you knock up a girl, both y'all got to sign off to have the kid. And if both people don't sign off, the woman takes on the responsibility for the kid. Like enough of this fucking knocking people up and making them pay for human beings they don't want. Need some new laws, man.
Chase,
Chase has an axe to grind. He's brought that up before.
he's brought it up.
Have I? Yeah.
Uh, Chase, when are you gonna have a little Chase in this world, man? I think I want a little nephew. Yeah,
My greatest fear is that it'll be with just some floozy, you know?
that's
Just
exactly what I expect it'll be. I mean, it doesn't
Dean's like, no,
matter.
no, no, that's the expectation. I was like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
man,
yeah.
the
A little half Vietnamese Chase or something like that. I don't really
there's
know.
a there's a client. I'm not seeing now. This is past one, but he knocked up a girl in a foreign country, and he still remained pretty positive. Like they didn't get along. They fought all the time. I was like, dude, why are you so positive about this? He's like, because she's smoking hot. She is smoking hot, and I'm like, I guess that matters. Like everybody, his family saw the pictures, and then they weren't mad anymore. They're like, oh, okay, all right. So if you have like a smoking hot baby, I guess that's a good thing. But you don't want to have a retarded looking kid with an ugly chick. That would not be good.
Austin, one time, I never released this podcast, but one time we had Vic on there in Hawaii, and he started talking about his one of his girls, and it was she's clearly insane, like just batshit crazy. This girl just always causing trouble, always just the source of drama and stuff. But he would just say, "Yeah, but look at her tits." This is like
No, he says she's a 10. She's a 10,
she's a
man.
10.
She's
She's
a
a 10.
10.
So would you throw away a 10? No, you wouldn't. So shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. There's never do better than this. And I was like, all right,
If
fair
if you've
enough.
if you've never had a 10 and you do get to have a 10, I imagine that intoxication is just too powerful to overcome. It's too
Yeah.
powerful. It's the ultimate drug.
Austin, do you think you would fall victim to it if you had your perfect fantasy walk into the room, but they were a spiritually devoid person who gave you drama and pain around every corner, but they just got your dick hard like nobody else,
You
man?
got your snake card. You got your snake card.
Snake hard, man, ready to bite, ready to strike.
That's no, that wouldn't be tolerable. No, I wouldn't want that. I need
What the
somebody I
bullshit?
can connect with. I'm not a a vapid surface level person like some people, you know.
All right, here's my question then. Austin, let's imagine you do go into the wilderness. Yes, the young Christ-like figure that you are, and then the devil does show up. What would your three temptations be? Hmm? The three
Hmm.
things he could offer you that would give you pause, and you would say, maybe.
Good question.
Wow. It's
Or just,
almost like
or
too
just,
good, you know.
or just one. Give us one. What's one of them?
Yes, the temptation of the Austin. Tell me what it is. Yes.
A lot of the reasoning around of me getting off of opioids was it was a practical concern that it's a vanishing resource that once you run out, you're left in a terrible, worse situation than you were before. But of course, if you never ran out, then it's not so bad.
So high
You know,
forever.
yeah, you like a mountain of the purest, China white that that would be tempting.
Damn. Okay. All right. That is a real temptation for that'd be a good one to ask an addict, Chase. Like if the devil showed up and he gave you, here it is, the purest, best ever, and it never runs out. Could you say no?
If an addict gave me an answer like that, I would trust them. It's the addicts that are like, "Oh, I want a family and I want to, just I'm like, I don't fucking believe anything you're saying, dude." Yeah. That's an honest answer.
As an honest.
Spoken like a man that's been lost in the clouds due to the drugs. I, I don't blame you. I don't blame me and Dean. I think I speak for you. Temptations of the flesh. Flesh. It just if something truly just delicious came along, I'd have to sample it. I would have to. Couldn't.
It would be the great moment of my life. It would be the temptation would be so real. Like if I was offered my ultimate sexual fantasies, I would just be staring blank for several minutes, like feeling my soul like beginning to be ripped to shreds, like the real like there's such a Nero inside of
Wait,
me,
wait, wait, wait.
like such depravity waiting to
I-
come out.
let's change this, Austin. Austin, let's say something happens and all of a sudden you run into 10, 20 million dollars. Like you got money. And it's just you wouldn't sample beautiful things like people. Like you wouldn't take just even like one taste. This is hypothetical. This is nothing against your relationship.
You mean one feast,
This
huh?
is a fantasy, dude. I like if I had that money, I'd be like, oh, I gotta find a good girl after I fuck maybe 15 or 20 fucking tens. Like I need to do it just because I'm in the position to do it. I can do it. I'd have to take advantage of it. I feel obligation to do it.
An obligation. No, if I had that much money, I would build a house out of concrete and I would never leave. That's
Is
my dream.
is there a
I often think
drawbridge?
about
How do
that.
I get in? Can I come and visit on occasion?
No,
Yeah.
you can visit, but that's my like honestly, dude, when I'm fantasizing, I think about a piece of property that's away from the city. I hadn't thought about the moat yet, but I thought of a high tower that was easily defensible that could be self-contained. Like
I wish Eric was here because he would call out everyone's bullshit right now. It's like I'm making it happen.
No.
I'm doing it right
Oh
now.
yeah, yeah.
You guys have your thumbs up your ass, fantasizing. I'm making it happen.
What I have never thought that way, Austin, until and Dean can attest to this out here. Because occasionally in certain spots it's affordable. And I've seen some acreage in a house. I'm like, ooh, that damn, that like you can grow anything. You got like a little stream or a lagoon that like hanging out. I was like, this is fucking cool. And it's not, and it's not like millions and millions of dollars. It's like, oh shit, that's all it is. Like that's when I start dreaming. I'm like, that's fucking maybe that's probable. That'd be fucking cool. Like learn to spearfish, just hop in the water and fucking shoot some shit and bring it into shore. Booby trap the place. Yeah.
yeah, well, so like my thought would be like I don't think concrete houses are really that expensive. You have good land, you make a house that's going to stand for 1,000 years. Like you've got like your main concerns already dealt with, and then you could do the fishing and all this stuff. Like that's my dream. But
Have you
it's
seen
like
those concrete houses in LA? Austin, have you seen them?
yeah, it's partly what gave me the idea, but I've always loved the idea of having a house that nobody could ever get inside if I decided not. And this might be a statement about myself and my own traumas too, but uh, I have a castle inside of me that, I'm gonna go in there and nobody can ever hurt me.
I'm
Well,
impenetrable until my
what,
pants are
on
off.
occasion though, the moat does come down for only me. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friends, I love having I love good people. Like good people are the best part of life, but also the
But you want them to
bad
come to
people are the
you.
worst
You
part.
don't want to go out to them.
You can come.
See, so
He says, yeah, yes, yes, you come to me. That's the idea.
my dream would be to have like a not a monster property, but it's a little bit of acreage. You got your main pad, like the house, like where I'm at. It's not huge, but it's cool. And then you got like four little mini houses like spread out on the acreage. So when whoever wanted to come, you know what I mean? Like, hey, Austin wants to swing by. Like, hey, dude, go over there. You got your little kitchen, you got a bathroom, you got a kitchen, you got a little like you got a little that's your little pod. And stay as long as you want. Stay as long as you want, and like you can come over and hang out, or you could just stay over there. Like, I like that. I like just everybody's got a little spot to isolate, and then everybody can kind of congregate when they want to. So if you want to tell people to fuck off, you can tell them to fuck off for a while and go stay at your like that's what I like. That would be fucking cool. Super cool.
Money, money.
I yeah, yeah. Hey man, the other thing I think of if I had that money, I'd buy all that property in Alabama, those two lakes. I'd connect those lakes and make it one giant lake
That's a great property, man.
just
I
to
love
do
it.
it.
It's a good spot. Austin, you guys went to Oneonta once, right? Did you come out with us?
Yeah, for sure. I think we have a picture of us standing out on this concrete or stone thing that like went out into the water.
Doc. Yeah, the
Yeah, and
doc.
we drove 50s around. Yeah, it was a good time. There's a dog that had a bunch of ticks on it.
Yeah. I
Rosie, man, forgot about that
Oh
dog.
yeah.
I there's something to me. I like natural beauty. Like I just like just nature, just it's just beautiful in nature all itself. That Alabama property is all created. Like it's been dug up, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Even though it's man-made, it's a pretty good vibe out there still. It's like you can create your own vibe for sure. You can build a fucking lake, you can build a castle. Yeah, why
Do you
not?
remember? Sorry, we're talking Austin. You're gonna have no idea what we're talking about here. But Chase, do you remember Doc's house?
The barn. Oh no, the
No,
one in town.
no,
Yes,
the
yes, yes.
house.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a great hall room. Do you remember the big room that was like 2 stories high, and it was just a big ass room?
It was he was the only doctor in town. He had this long 1 story, or maybe it was two. It was a tiny
Two.
little 2 story house, but everything in each room was like, what is this? Why? Like it was so
Yeah.
beautifully put together. Small, comfortable, wealthy man's house. Yes, that
Well, I
was
always had a thing for I don't know what it is. I like Alabama houses. I know that sounds weird to say, but like I feel like there's no standard model house. Like it was always just like, yeah, let's I'm gonna put this shit together and put a basement on it. That sort of thing. But like I like wood paneling, like crappy 70s wood paneling. Like I don't know. I like the feel of Alabama houses, man. I didn't even like Austin, like the old Elrod house, man. That house was interesting, you know? That basement, things happened in that basement, man. You know? And
Yeah.
there's the crazy wood yard, and there was always kids playing like paintball or something like that in that neighborhood. Like it was an all right little house, man. I liked it.
Yeah, it was nice. We had a lot of fun down there.
Yeah. Do you remember forts, Austin? Do you remember building forts down there?
Oh yeah. Core memories. And maybe
Yeah.
this is where my fascination with castles came from
It all
and
started
wanting to
there.
build them.
Yeah.
Perhaps, yeah.
we all wonder where that. Yeah, I've never heard you say you wanted to build a castle. I wonder where that came from. It's interesting. Well, like you said, maybe it's symbolic to keep everybody out of your deepest, darkest.
Or maybe he wants to be the king. Yeah. He wants to dominate the world
Dude,
around
you know what? I remember watching a documentary on castle defense. Like they were doing a breakdown. Like, yeah, this castle got invaded. This is how they defended it. Pouring oil on people, dropping like huge stones on people's skulls and just cracking them in half. Like it was booze. Dude, I would not want to charge a castle. That is a sure death. I never understood that. Like, we're gonna take a castle, guys. I'm like, great. I'm not going first. I don't know who would go first. Like, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get burned. You're gonna get your skull crushed in, and then you're gonna get your head or dick cut off. Like it. I, I never understood who would want to charge in. It would make no sense.
it.
No
In
sense.
China, they've got the fire spring. You ever heard of the fire spring?
Is that with like the Archimedes shit where they burn you to death?
No, what they got is they have this it's a wire. It's a giant copper wire that's wound up at the gates. Yeah, like and they what they do is they wind it in like this spring sort of thing and they heat it so that the copper expands and it expands enough to release the spring and it's a giant horizontal flaming hot wire cut that like just cuts 100 men in half
What?
under yeah, they just fall in half, right?
What?
Yeah. It's pretty brutal, man. Yeah, like China's big on the gates. They've got all these crazy every town's got the gates and they all got their secret booby traps inside of them and stuff. Yeah.
There's a movie where that happens. I think it's called Ghost Ship.
Ghost Ship, it's exactly like Ghost Ship. That's exactly
Yeah,
like it was. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's the one thing I remember about that stupid fucking movie, man.
it was a bad movie.
That
Well,
one
they had this technology when? And like how long ago?
long dynasty, long time, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Dude, you
Yeah.
could cut a whole army in
Not
half?
a whole army, but like the gate. Like, everyone's like breaking into the gate, like where you would pour oil. They release the spring and like anybody who's around the gate, like you got a whole group of men just slices them in
So,
half.
so I got a question. So the Chinese came up with everything great first. It seems this way. Why are they not running the world, man?
Oh, you want to hear a weird historical theory? I'll tell you it if you want to hear it. Yeah. Okay. So Chinese drink tea. Yeah. They never drank wine. Right? And because they never drank wine, they never developed glass. Yeah. Because glass, wine has this beautiful color and it has to be corked and carried and stuff like that. Glass is developed in Egypt. The Chinese don't get wine or glass until Westerners start to come over. Glass can be ground down into lenses. Lenses can be give you glasses. They can extend the life of your scientists by the working life of your scientists by 15, 25 years. And effectively, you have a population that's living in dark houses with paper windows and little light, little candles and stuff. Eyes naturally go bad. Yeah. And so because of that, they didn't have lenses. And without lenses, you don't have anything that's chemically neutral to do chemistry in. And you also don't have the things you need for microscopes and all that. So, because of this strange fate of not discovering glass, they fell behind basically everyone in the
Ooh.
West.
And glass is not like something that's just something you find. Heat sand, and then you're like, oh shit, I like it's just kind of a miracle thing, right? It's not something
It,
that we
you can always heat sand, but the process of refining it to the point of it being like this moldable thing, that's the real
what
secret.
so I imagine you read this somewhere. So that's the theory that if they would have had glass at the same time as we did, they would have been far more ahead of us.
It's a, sort of a playful theory. Jared
All right.
Diamond, one who's famous for it. He's that guy who wrote Guns, Germs, and Steel, the famous book.
Sure, maybe.
But essentially, he's a technologist, meaning he believes technology is the driving force of history.
What if
Whoever makes the technological discovery first determines
what
history.
what about those fucking cruise ships they were going around on as warships? Imagine if they didn't
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
cut those off. They would have colonized everywhere.
They made it all the way to the Cape of Good Hope. They were there in Africa. Like before Magellan or anything like that, they were on those giant city ships. And they truly were gigantic, the junks. And they made it all the way to Africa. And they turned around because they ran out of money.
Well, I thought like an emperor said we were not a seafaring, like we were people of the land. Like some
Yeah, that's what they said, the emperor said, but the truth is that they just simply ran out of supplies. They had to return home, because they were so far along. The journey took years and years and years and years. By the time the emperor came to power,
Well, why would you cut that off? That seems like all right, there's more to see. Like, do they not have the conquistador in them, I guess? Is that a European trait?
not really. This is something that people don't understand about China. China has no interest in expansion,
Yeah, that's
right?
the yeah, the white
They
man
never
does. They
have,
never do. Yeah,
ever, because it's big enough. They got 1 billion people. They don't need more. So, I mean,
maybe.
Taiwan's one thing, right? But that's part of China in their mind. There's no desire to like expand into India or Southeast Asia or something like that.
How interesting. I thought that was almost like a trait embedded in man, but maybe not in the Asian man.
No, that's the explorer, the pioneer is American, man.
Well,
That is
but the Polynesians are
European.
probably the greatest explorers in the world, right?
Dude, they had one trip, you know? And they went off to Hawaii and a few islands. They never went to fucking California.
That's
They
a,
never fucking went to South
dude.
America.
Yeah,
They
they
never went,
did. Yeah, they
huh?
did. Yeah, they
To
did.
South America?
Yeah, they've found artifacts from like the 13 or 1400s. They landed. And I'm not saying they started a colony, but they found
Yeah, they
whole
landed and they fucking died. That's what
maybe,
happened. All
but they
right.
made
You
it, man.
know,
They had it.
they're like, yeah, like there's no fucking pineapples here. We're going back.
Dean, I sense a little biased against your Hawaiian brethren.
Yeah, I definitely feel
Let me
that.
tell you so I have such disrespect for Hawaiian culture. I hate how much they prop it up. It's ruined that place, that they think it's this legendary culture.
What my thing with Hawaii is like, we want our freedom. I'm like, yeah, all right, you got your freedom. How you gonna survive? We're gonna fish and farm. And I'm like, you got nothing. You got nothing, man. You know,
Yeah.
it's just, you got nothing, man.
So stupid. They're the dumbest people on the fucking face of the earth, man. And I
Wow.
just have nothing I'm sorry, Austin. I lived amongst these people before Chase, right? I was in Captain Cook in the hippie central of America,
No,
dude.
you're just joking though. Not all of them are dumb, right? Yeah.
Huh? Oh no, only the natives are dumb, Yeah.
I'm throwing you a
Wow.
lifeline here, man. He's like, nah, I don't want it. I don't want the life.
What?
This
What am
is
I gonna do? What are they gonna do to me? Huh? Huh? I'm in fucking China.
it's
I listen.
incredibly raw and honest. Like IQ differentials are a real thing. People talk about people in Haiti having like an average IQ of like 80 or like 90.
It's
So
probably about 80. That sounds about right.
okay,
Yeah.
and there's a term for it. So
Forrest Gump. Oh
every
no.
like 10 or 20 IQ points, there's I forget. I want to know what he called them, but there's like a gulf. But he's like basically if you're like 10 or 12, I think it was 20
15.
IQ. Okay, a point above someone, like communication immediately breaks down, and it's true for up and down as well. But he was talking about in in case Haitian migrants. He was like, you're bringing someone with an 80 IQ into the U.S. where the median IQ is much higher. Like they can't really do anything at a certain level. But
It's a great point. And, I was looking up IQs recently. How interesting. You know who has surprisingly low IQs? What continent you think? I mean, that you wouldn't.
What are you trying to say, Chase?
South America is stupid. Like,
Oh,
I was like, the average IQ in Brazil was 85. I was like, 85?
wow,
That's retarded 70. That ain't too far, you know? And then Colombia was like 86. I was like, damn, I thought they would be 90 plus at least.
hold
It's
on.
just
So the only points of reference I have for IQ is I know Forrest Gump is supposedly 70. Yes.
that's
Okay.
retarded. Is that force? Is he a 70?
Yeah, he's right on the line. And I also know this, the IQ of a German Shepherd dog that's been trained for the military in Spain is 60.
Oh.
Okay. So these are my 2 points of reference. Okay. So the entirety of Brazil is a little better than Forrest Gump. Is that what you're telling me? Is that the reference that we're doing? Like, can you tell me what a 90 is or what a 100 is?
we're
Like, I don't have any
canceled
other
now.
points of reference?
Dean has single handedly canceled this show.
All right,
We're
who's the highest? Who do you think the highest is though?
Japanese or
Country?
Koreans, maybe.
Korean and Singaporeans. Yeah.
Singaporeans. They have the number one school in the world in Singapore. Yeah.
University of Singapore. Yeah.
No, no, no. High school,
Oh,
international school.
let me.
Yeah.
I've counseled Singaporeans and hung out with them. They are. I would use this word to describe almost all hollow. Hollow. Perfect
Wow.
English, educated, zero substance in any of those conversations. I was shocked at how little depth we found with
It
various
is.
amounts of people.
It
Yeah.
is a. In it's very strange because Singapore is actually probably, even though it's not, one of the most communist acting countries I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
They're all about the free market, but the ideology that Singaporeans adopt, they are completely militant about, right? Like that dictatorial idea of multiculturalism, and I'm not saying it in the British sense. I'm saying it in the we must accept we are cosmopolitan. There is full acceptance of the cosmopolitan identity, and if you reject that, you are ousted. So
What
that doesn't just mean we accept Hindus and Muslims and Chinese people. It means we also reject gay people. Like for example, sodomy is still illegal. If you're caught fucking a man in Singapore, you're killed, right? Like they have no tolerance for anything that even counters any aspect of multiculturalism.
So you know
It's a
how they
really
do the multiculturalism there? You know how they do it?
legally they do it through law, but yeah, go
It's
ahead.
it's legal, but it's like, oh, you're American. You need to live over here. That's where the Americans live. Oh, you're
Yeah,
from Sweden? You live there. That's
yeah,
where the Swedish
all
people live.
divided.
That's where you'll be the most happy. Like you are told to live. I don't know how this is where you need to live. This will be the most happy. You're like, okay, I probably should do that. Yeah. Like we're gonna do multicultural, but there's a certain part of the city that you live in.
It's it's ghettoization in a weird way.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
How
It's a cool
interesting.
city. Don't get me wrong, but
Well, I've always
I didn't
loved
like it.
with
It's crazy.
the city state idea, man. You know your territory, you know your people, you've been to every part of it. Like to me, that's always like think of Greece, Athens, and Sparta. It's like that just made sense. It just makes
Old
you,
school Hong Kong, one of the
oh
coolest
yeah,
places on earth, man.
yeah,
One of
that
the coolest places on earth. Yeah.
really, yeah.
Oh yeah, huh, Mongkok, man. Mongkok is like this unbel. It is exactly how I imagine China would be, like just everything stacked on top of each other, neon lights and signs everywhere, just the crowd moving, people, and everyone speaks perfect English. Ah, it's a great feeling, a great feeling. Not like that anymore, unfortunately, but still, it's still cool. Dan's there. Dan's having a good time. You know,
Dan, possibly the man.
he's the man. Yeah. Shall we call it there, gentlemen? I guess that's it. The silence ringing out over the entire podcast, making my ears bleed. Nothing else.
This was a little more intellectually minded. A little bit of stimulation on the growth side. Maybe somebody learned something.
It's because of Austin, man. He brings it, you
I'm
know.
talking about it's because of
Who? Yeah,
yeah, yeah, probably Austin.
Dan. Yeah, that's right. Sit in your goddamn chair and smoke your weed, you little punk. All right. We've got an episode wrapped up this week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for listening to the Divine Brothers. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.